Bad is not what I want you to say. Instead, I want you to say, hey everyone, my name is Wes. This is Interactive English. The channel is just all about helping you practice and improve your English skills. And today it's a vocabulary lesson for you. It's really related to one word, and that is bad. First, I want to say that I'm not telling you that you should never use bad. Of course, you might use this word from time to time. I just want to encourage you to think of other words and phrases that you can use to express your opinions about things that you might not like. Because the problem with bad is that it's so common, it's not very descriptive. And there are so many other words and phrases that you can use that would really tell someone just how bad something is, and you're just giving them more information, which is always good. So what we're going to do is I'm going to tell you some very common questions that somebody might ask about different topics, and instead of saying bad, I'm going to give you some other vocabulary that you can use. So let's begin with a very common question that someone might ask, which is, how's it going? And instead of saying, well, I'm having a bad day, there's a lot that you could say. You could just keep it simple and really kind of just say the opposite of bad and say, well, not good. Or even crappy, that's a synonym for bad. It's a crappy day. Or even use an interjection like meh. How's it going? Meh. That really means that, well, the day is not very exciting. Perhaps it's pretty boring. It's just meh. Or you could use a phrase like, well, I've been better. That's a way of really not being too negative about the day, but just still telling somebody that things are not good. Well, I've been better. Or even one day at a time. That really would tell someone that you're just trying to survive today. Perhaps it's been difficult, very exhausting. You just want it to end one day at a time. Another common question someone might ask you, and it's also a conversation starter, is, well, what did you think of the movie? Or what did you think of this TV show? And instead of saying bad, you could say, well, it's terrible. Terrible really means very bad, or even atrocious. I think atrocious is even stronger than terrible. Or if you want to give a little extra information, talking about a movie or a TV show, you could say that it's slow. Maybe you thought there would be more action, more adventure, and it's not moving fast, it's just slow. Or if it doesn't meet your expectations, which I think happens when we watch a movie or a TV show, then you could say it's disappointing. Yeah, it was just disappointing. It was bad. You don't need to watch it. It's disappointing. Now, I know in this lesson, I'm teaching you all these different ways to say that something is bad, but I want to take a moment and tell you about something that is actually really good, and it has to do with the sponsor of today's lesson, which is Lingoda. So if you feel that your English is maybe bad, but I don't want to use bad, so maybe you feel that your English is, well, just not good, or maybe it's coming along slow, or if you just want to improve your English skills and achieve English fluency, then Lingoda can help with that. And right now, Lingoda wants to show you a little bit of love by offering a 20% discount on all marathon and monthly courses, but you need to sign up between now and March 1st. So Lingoda is great because, well, they have small group classes, which means you have plenty of opportunities to speak. Those same classes are available 24/7. You get to learn from the comfort of your own home, and classes start as low as €8 per group class. And I know all this because I have also studied with Lingoda. I took some classes in Spanish, and it was a really great experience. Lingoda has even started doing things like quizzes and homework, and these are new features that will just help you continue improving your language skills. All you need to do is click on the link in the description, and when you sign up, you can even get a free 7-day trial. And make sure you use the voucher code LOVE2021 to get a 20% discount off your first month's payment. Easy to remember, Valentine's Day is upon us. LOVE2021. Get that 20% discount. And then once you do all that, you will be on your way to reaching your fluency goals. And that is a great thing. And now let's get back to talking about, well, how to say things are bad. So we're going to head back in the opposite direction, and we're going to look at this question right here. Maybe somebody might ask, well, how's the food? Or how's the meal? And instead of saying that it's bad, Maybe you want to be perhaps a little more polite. You could say it's disagreeable. If you say it's disagreeable, it also maybe means that you don't feel very well. Maybe it makes you feel a little sick. It's unpleasant. You could say that it's disagreeable. If you're not worried about trying to be polite and you really want someone to know that something tastes bad, you could say it's gross. Oh, this is gross. Or if the food is a little old, you could say that it's rotten. And sometimes old food, it might start growing mold. You could even see it on the food. And then you could just say, well, this is just moldy. Typically, moldy food, it's going to taste pretty bad. Or if you want to get more specific, and in this case, you're saying that, well, the food could be better, you could say that it's too spicy, or it's too sweet, or too sour, because we use too to say that something is more than what is needed. Or you could use this phrase and say that something is not spicy enough, or it's not sweet enough, or not sour enough. And with all of those phrases, you're talking about, well, the food, it could be better. Another question someone might ask you, I know I ask this question before I go outside, and I just say, well, what's the weather like? And, well, of course, the weather can be bad, but instead of saying bad, you could be a little more descriptive and actually say what the weather is like. You could just say cold, or hot, or windy, or rainy. And in all of those cases, you're actually describing the weather. And I think when people do this, what they're really implying is that they're not really excited about this. If somebody says, well, what's the weather like? You're like, hot. That really doesn't mean that you love that weather. You're really kind of saying that, well, it can be a little annoying. Probably it's too hot. And you could also use too in front of those words as well to give it that extra emphasis. It's too cold, it's too hot, too windy, or maybe it's just too rainy outside and you're going to stay inside. You could also say the weather is yucky. So when I think of somebody describing weather as yucky, perhaps it's like raining and snowing and it's just dark and it's just you don't want to be outside in that weather when it's yucky. Or you could describe the weather and say that it's lousy. It's just, we have lousy weather right now. Or nasty. That's another word that people may use when talking about bad weather. It's just nasty weather outside. Let's not go out. It's really bad. It's nasty. Then we have this question right here. What do you think of, well, some piece of work, such as art? And sometimes art, it may look pretty bad. And if you really don't want to hold back, then, and you want to say it's bad, you could just say dreadful. Oh, this is dreadful. Or it's hideous. This picture is just hideous. Or garbage. That could be a little mean and hard to hear if you call somebody's piece of work garbage. It's just, oh, that's really bad. Or if you're talking about like somebody's work, perhaps like a paper or an article. I'm a teacher, and sometimes students would give me their writing assignment, and I could say it's unacceptable. All right, it's not good. It's bad. It's unacceptable. Or even you could tell somebody in this situation, like they're handing you some assignment, you could just say it's wrong. So those are two words that you can use when you have a situation in which somebody might be submitting something to you at school or work, and it's bad. Maybe you could just say it's unacceptable or wrong. Now let's look at this question right here. What do you think of like this person? And often you might be referring to a person's behavior, the way that they act, because some people, they have really bad behavior. And you could say that someone is naughty. Naughty, this is a word that I think people would mostly use to describe children instead of saying bad, like, oh, this child is very naughty. You would not really use this word to describe adults. A word that you could use to describe adults would be, well, juvenile. That's a good one if you want to say that an adult is acting like a child, because juvenile means a young child or a younger person, and you could say that this person's very juvenile. Sometimes I can be juvenile, I'll be honest. Or if you want to say that somebody's behavior is just really bad, you could say that it's appalling. Or maybe even be a little more descriptive and say obnoxious. This person's just obnoxious, very unpleasant, bad, obnoxious behavior. People could also ask about your vacation. You go on vacation, you come back, it's very common. Somebody might just say, well, hey, how was the vacation? And if it was a very bad vacation, you could say, well, it could have been better. And this is a way of not really, well, just being like, oh, it was bad. You're trying to soften it a little bit, but if somebody says it could have been better, of course, then there were problems, there were issues. It's not the vacation you were hoping for. Could have been better. Or even somebody might just say, all right. And in this case, I would say all right has more of a negative connotation, and you're saying that the vacation was kind of bad because when you think of a vacation, people go on vacation to have a great time. They look forward to it. They want to enjoy it. So if somebody describes their vacation as just all right, that's not a good thing. That means their vacation was kind of bad. Or if you want to be completely open and honest, you could say that it was awful. I just had an awful time. Or even you could add to that word and say god awful. Oh, it was a god awful time. That vacation was just awful. Or you could describe your vacation, if it was pretty bad, perhaps you might just say it was uneventful. If something is uneventful, then, well, nothing exciting happened. Again, when you go on vacation, usually exciting things should happen. So when you say it's uneventful, then that tells us that, well, it was a bad vacation. And then we have this question right here. What did you think of the performance? And it could be any performance. It could be a musical performance or even a sports competition. And sometimes a performance can be pretty bad. But instead of saying that, if you're actually going to use the word performance, then you could say it was a poor performance. I think this is a common collocation, a poor performance, that the team lost badly because it was a poor performance. Or another great collocation, you could say something is a weak performance. The business lost money because management had a weak performance. Or if you just want to describe the performance and say that it's really bad, you could say it was a disaster. Everything went wrong. It was a complete disaster. Or even say that it was horrendous. That performance was horrendous. I want to forget about it because it was so bad. It was horrendous. You may even want to talk about an activity or an event, and somebody could ask you, well, how was this event? And if it was bad, you could say that it was unpleasant. You didn't like it. It was bad. It was unpleasant. Or especially if you're talking about an event or activity, usually you would think it's very exciting. And if it's just not exciting, maybe it brings you down, you could say, well, it was a downer. Or even it was a bummer. Or it was just depressing. Yeah, it was bad. It was really depressing. People may also talk about a class or a meeting. They say, how's the class? How's the meeting? And if it's a bad class, maybe you want to say why it was bad, and you could just say it was boring, all right? Or another word that you could use is lame. Oh, that meeting was so lame. It was bad. Or even ordinary. Ordinary, it's just not special. And in this case, if you're describing something like a class as ordinary, yeah, it's not a good thing. I hope that you do not think that these lessons are ordinary. I hope that you think that they are completely the opposite of every word and phrase that I just taught you in this lesson. But again, this vocabulary is very useful because you always want to use different words and phrases when you're expressing yourself. So instead of saying bad, I hope you learned some new vocabulary. If you did, please hit that like button down below. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.